The Recycler view is a modernized component that succeeds both the list view and the grid view. It addresses several issues that were present with both, and it makes you follow a well-structured programming style. The Recycler view component is defined in its own library rather than in the core SDK, so it's backward compatible with older versions of Android, but you do need to add a dependency to your Gradle build file in the app module. I'll open that build.gradle file and go down to the bottom. The Recycler view library is a part of the support repository. And just like all of those libraries, you should always use the most recent version when you're beginning a new application. There's a warning indicator on the version number for my support repository, so I'll use an intention action and upgrade to the latest version, which as of the time of this recording is 24.2.1. Then I'll duplicate that line of code, and I'll change the name of the library I'm looking for from AppCompat to Recycler view, and then I'll resync the project. Now the Recycler view component is available to my app. The next step is to add the Recycler view into an XML layout file. I'll go to my resources to Layout and open activity main.xml. I'll change this list view to the Recycler view, and I'll change the ID from ID/list to my own custom ID, and I'll name it RV items. And then in the top, I'm going to add the application namespace with app, and then I'll choose app.ns. Then I'll come back down to the Recycler view, and I'm going to add a layout manager. And I'll set that value to linear layout manager. That's the name of a class, and you can set it either here in the XML file or programmatically in Java. To verify that that's going to work, I'll make the project. And if I don't see any errors, then I know the code is correct. Next, I need to create an adapter class, just like I did with the list view. I'll go back to my Java directory, to my main package, and I'm going to rename the data item adapter as data item adapter list view. And then I'll create a new class that I'll name data item adapter. Now, the code you need for this is fairly extensive, so I'm going to go get it from a gist that I've already prepared. And I'll get that from git.io/v, uppercase P, lowercase k, uppercase jz. And that opens to this file. I'll select and copy the contents of the file, then come back to Android Studio, select everything, and paste the code into place. And let's take a look at what it does. For this code review, I'm going to go into presentation mode so we can see the code really clearly. I'll start at the top. The data item adapter class extends a class named RecyclerView.adapter, and it sets its generic as a subclass or member class called ViewHolder. The ViewHolder class is defined at the bottom. It extends a class named RecyclerView.ViewHolder, and it's responsible for setting up the bindings to the views in the XML layout file. This code will look very similar to what you'll see in an adapter for a list view. I'm getting references to my text views, my image views, and other visual widgets. And then I'm saving those as public fields of the ViewHolder class. The next method to look at is named onCreateViewHolder. This method is called automatically by the adapter each time it needs a new visual representation of a data item. When you inflate the XML layout file, you get a view, and then you wrap that in an instance of your ViewHolder class and return that object. Now, again, a lot of the code that we saw in an adapter for a list view is all still here, but it's all broken up into smaller pieces so it's easier to maintain. OnBindViewHolder is called each time the adapter encounters a new data item that it needs to display. It passes in the reference to the ViewHolder and the position of the data item in the collection. The job of OnBindViewHolder is to take that data object and display its values. And again, the code here looks exactly the same, but now when I reference TV name, a text view, and image view, which are views in the XML layout file, I'm getting those from the ViewHolder object. And finally, the getItemCount method returns the number of items in the data collection. So that's where all the code goes in an adapter. There's one other very important change we need to make. I'm still using the list item layout file to represent each item in my list. And I'm going to Control-click or Command-click into that layout file and make one simple change. For the layout height, instead of saying match parent, I'll set it to wrap content. And that's because the recycler view doesn't do as much automatically as the list view does. It won't automatically compress this view down. So now, each list item will only be as tall as it needs to be to accommodate its content. Finally, I'll go back to my main activity class. And I'm going to change this code a bit. Instead of using data item adapter list view, I'll now use data item adapter. And I'll change the type both in the declaration and in the instantiation. The constructor method looks exactly the same as before, getting a context and a list of data items, and again, it's saving that information persistently within the class. Instead of getting a list view, I'm going to get a recycler view. And I'll change that in both the declaration and in the instantiation. And instead of looking for the ID android.r.id.list, I'll look for r.id.rv items. And that's the recycler view that I had put into my main activity layout file. I'll change the name of this variable. It's no longer a list view. It's now a recycler view. And other than that, the code remains the same. And I'll run the app, and let's take a look at the results. And the app looks pretty much the same as it did before. Once again, I have a scrollable list showing all of the items in my menu. And again, I'm showing each image for each menu item. But there are some changes. When I click on these items in the list, I don't get the animations that I got with the list view component, and you don't get the ability to display colors indicating selections of rows. Those are things that are automatic in the list view that you have to implement yourself with the recycler view. But in exchange for that, you get a much more maintainable coding structure and better memory management with larger amounts of data.